Hello everyone. This is a project I've been working on for the last couple of months, just during my free time, whatever free time I had, 15-20 minutes here and there. Eventually I finished it, but this is basically inspired by a TV show I saw a few months back called Auction Kings, and on the show some guy brought in what's called a vampire killing kit to be auctioned off on the show. Supposedly these kits were made around the 19th century and were sold to travelers traveling to Europe because I guess there was a belief that vampires existed back then. Some people claim these kits actually never existed, that these are just hoaxes that were made in the 20th century and they're being passed off as antiques. But regardless, I thought it was a pretty cool piece, so I decided to try my hand at making one of these. So one of the first things I had to do was find a box. And the first box I came across was this one. It has a nice antique look, and it came with some leather straps and some brass rivets on there, so it had that nice old look to it, so I decided to pick this one up. The next thing I needed to do was create compartments for all the tools and gadgets that a vampire hunter would need. So these compartments were actually made using what's called modeler's wood. You can find this at hobby stores or arts and crafts stores. Basically little strips of wood that are different thicknesses and widths, and you can cut them down to size to fit whatever your needs. So once I had all these in here, I used wood glue to glue these in here. Wood glue is incredibly strong. The wood will actually break before the wood gives out, so that's how strong it is. So after I had these compartments set in, I went online and I found a company that sells Self-Adhesive Velvet. So I picked up a couple of those. You can find them on a website called Rockler. They sell these velvet strips, and each sheet is about 12 bucks, so I picked up 3 or 4 sheets. So once I had everything laid out, it was time to get all the tools and gadgets in here. So one of the classic vampire hunting tools is the stake and mallet. So for the stakes, I actually just picked up inch-thick wooden rods from a hardware store, cut them down to size. I think these are about 10.5 inches, and simply just whittle down the end to make the actual point on here with a utility knife, and that actually only took about 10 minutes to do that. Then I used some dark oak stain, stained it, and then used some lacquer to give it that shiny finish on it. I used some twine for the grip area, just basically wrapped it around it, and used some adhesive on the inside to just make sure it doesn't slip off. But these are basically what the stakes look like. So I got 2 stakes in here. The next part is the wooden mallet, which I actually found in a junk shop, a local junk shop. The guy sold it to me for 3 bucks, so that was pretty convenient. I added these little crucifixes on here, which I actually cut out with a Dremel on a brass sheet. So I cut these out of a brass sheet and I weathered it a bit. I made the grips out of that same twine that I used on the stakes. So this is a pretty simple part. The next 2 pieces on here are these mini crucifix stakes. They're not really stakes, they're actually meant to be stabbed through the wrists of the vampire into the ground. Supposedly the vampire will be held in place or pinned into the ground by doing this, so that's basically what those are for. These were also made from the modeler's wood, stained and lacquered. The next part is the pistol. Some people are probably wondering what you need a pistol against a vampire, but according to old folklore, European folklore, if you shoot a vampire through his coffin while he's sleeping in it, that'll pretty much do the trick. So this is actually a replica of an 1849 Colt pocket pistol, and there's a company called Denix that makes pretty good metal replicas of old guns, and that's where I got this from. If you do a Google search, you can find different vendors who sell these for different prices. They usually run between $25 and $35. So the next piece over here is percussion caps. Back then these guns didn't have built-in powdered blasting caps, so you actually had to put everything together on the bullet with the bullets when you loaded the shots into the gun. So that's what they use these for. I picked this up on eBay. This is actually a replica. No, actually this is an authentic 19th century percussion cap tin. Civil War era, I believe. So that was pretty convenient finding that for a pretty cheap price. The next thing I made were these little compartments here. These little compartments actually hold the shots for the gun. So, as you can see, little lead shots for the gun. I might go ahead and use silver leaf on these and make these silver, but for now they're just just lead shots, and they fit into these little slots that I made for them. And the top on here keeps them in place so they don't fall out. So